All right, let's continue the conversation tonight with our courtroom insider, Sue O'Connell. Sue, as always, thanks for staying up with us.
Always.
So take us inside the courtroom right as we thought the verdict was about to be announced, but then everything sort of stopped and paused and everyone had to reset.
Well, I'll tell you, just before that, I went into the courtroom. I had some folks who knew where Karen Reed's daytime office was, and they were telling me that the drivers were actually kind of lounging around outside the cars. I went into the courthouse. Suddenly, all the court officers were looking for the clerk of courts. He's the guy that runs the court. He's the one that pulls the balls out of the tumbler there. And there was a lot of hubbub. And then we heard, get him going, line him up. And that's when we knew that the defense team was going to come over from their undisclosed location. And that meant there must be a verdict. But usually we're told there's a verdict a little bit in advance so that we can get in position. We went into the courtroom. As I was standing at the back of the room, a court officer walked by with a manila envelope fastened in the back, brought it to the judge, and we were confused. Is this a verdict or not? And it turns out we don't know what was in that envelope.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are curious. It could have been a partial, it could have even been just communication between the jury and Judge Cannone.
Right, because the judge said that they knocked on her door and said, we have a verdict, then knocked again and said, we don't have a verdict. So we were all sent out of the courtroom, and we just waited to get it sorted out, and sorted out it did.
So the moment, I mean, just a few moments after that, when Judge Cannone called everyone back into the courtroom, this time for the official verdict to be read out loud, you said you heard Karen as she was walking back into the courtroom. What was that moment like for either side of the defense or the prosecution?
Yes, it was just really this high energy anxiety. We had to leave all of our bags out to go back into the courtroom, so we knew there was a verdict. We asked Karen, how do you feel? She said anxious. The high energy in there was palpable. Just waiting, because there's nothing you can do at this point. It's all done. So when the judge got to the bench and the jury came in looking exhausted, some of them looked sad, some of them looked happy, and then the reading of the verdict, and you're not supposed to show any emotion in the courtroom, so everybody was really on the Reed side and on the O'Keefe side trying to keep it together, but then the O'Keefe family was taking out. And then it kind of pivots right to business. All right, should we do the sentencing? And that was the moment.
What happened when Alan Jackson leaned over? It looked like he whispered something. I think my interpretation was maybe he was explaining they found her guilty of the OUI, not the OUI charge with manslaughter, and was explaining the difference of what had happened in that moment, or?
Well, I think that when they read, there was sort of a misfire when we got to the manslaughter verdict because we couldn't hear it very clearly. I think the foreperson misspoke and had to be asked again. And then when that came as not guilty, the crowd outside erupted, and we couldn't hear anything because the crowd was so loud outside, it drowned out the clerk and the foreperson. So I think Alan Jackson might have just leaned over and said, it's the OUI charge that's the guilty.
Yeah. So she's out of the woods with the criminal trial. What happens next? She still has the civil trial. How does that impact that case against her?
Well, the civil trial has a much lower bar to meet, right? Because it's
a lower burden of proof.
Right, because there's two groups suing each other, not the government coming to take your freedom from you. So it's a much lower burden of proof. This OUI charge doesn't help her because now she's got this on her record. So we'll see how that moves forward. Most civil cases settle. We'll see if that's the case.
All right, Sue, we appreciate you being inside that courthouse for us.